say 10th of June. So request all of you to have a look at all the assignments, and the study material is also shared now.
Shahana Bhavatu Shahanu Punatu Shahubir Jangaruva Bahai Tejashina Badhi Tamastu Ma Vidvishabhai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Now, to whom I will make host, Ishani or Anindita?
Sir, Ishani.
Ishani, ma'am, sir.
So, Ishani, now you are host.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'm just trying to make it a slideshow, which I think is not happening. Anyway, are you able to see this? Let me increase the visibility. Today, actually, in Bangalore, much of storm and raining is happening. So I'm a little unsure of how will be the strength of this network. So are you able to see this slide? Dharni?
Yes, ma'am, we are able to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we talked about reliability in terms of test, retest reliability. So whether our instrument or whether our questionnaire is reliable or not, whether it is giving us consistent results or not. So one way to test is that when I'm applying the questionnaire on the same individual after a certain period of time. Now there is one more thing, which is the internal consistency of a test. That is how well the test components contribute to the construct and how far the test is homogeneous. So how far the test is homogeneous means whether one item and another item correlate or not. So item here means our questions. So maybe my questionnaire is having maybe 10 items or 10 questions. So whether these 10 questions are having relevance to each other or not, whether they are correlated with each other or not. So suppose I'm trying to find out the stress level of someone who is working as a sales manager. So maybe one of my questions may be, can you sleep properly when there is some target or the deadline is given, or you are reaching the that is you are not able to fulfill the deadline, whether you can sleep properly or not. So maybe one of my questions is that, and the next questions I have put like, would you like to invest in a mutual fund? So see, these two questions are completely different and cannot measure the same construct. So when we are forming the questionnaire, we need to be sure of whether my items are related to each other and whether these items are ultimately contributing to measure the construct which I am trying to measure. So this is the internal consistency or internal say the reliability of a questionnaire, whether the items are correlated with each other or not, and whether they are correlated with the ultimate construct or not. So there are several ways to find out this internal consistency. So one of the ways is split half method. Here what we are doing, suppose we are having a questionnaire which is having 100 items. So we are splitting these questionnaires into 50-50. Maybe we can keep all the even number of items in one form and the odd number of items separately in another form. And then we can give these two forms to the individual or to all the individuals to my sample. So each of the individuals are getting two forms. In one form, all the even number of items are there, and in another form, all the odd number of items are there. Now I will be getting two scores for each individual. So I will find out the correlation between these two scores. If they are correlated, then my questionnaire or my instrument is having internal consistency. Is it okay? Are you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here, this is the pictorial representation of what I just said. So this is one person, we are giving two halves. So here, these three are my, say, sample. I am having a sample size of 3. So I am giving two forms to each of the individuals. Then I will be getting two scores from each one of them. And I shall tally these two scores to see whether there is a correlation or not. If there is a correlation, then there is internal consistency. If there is not, then it's not there. So this is the formula. So this is the split half reliability of the test, the coefficient of reliability. And then we are having RXY. Now, RXY is the correlation between score X and score Y. So we are getting two scores, and this is the formula. 2RXY divided by 1 plus RXY to receive the split half reliability coefficient. Okay, should I move on to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
So split half reliability coefficient, or trying to find out internal consistency using split half method, is a very basic one. It is usually not used in practical terms. Suppose you don't have much time and you are just trying to calculate it very hurriedly, maybe you can use that. But otherwise, it's practically, it's not of that much of use. Then we have Cronbach's coefficient alpha. Now, this is the most important one in most of the questionnaires, whether the questionnaire is reliable or not, whether that instrument is reliable. Now again, I am interchangeably, I am giving these two terms, questionnaire and instrument, but there is a fundamental difference. Questionnaire is when I have put down certain questions, I'm thinking that this might be the contributing questions to measure certain thing. That is a questionnaire. When that questionnaire is tested and it is reliable and valid, then it becomes one instrument. So Cronbach's coefficient alpha, it was formulated or developed by Lee Cronbach in 1951. And what it basically does, it obviously measures the internal consistency, and it is used for Likert scale or scales like the Likert scale. That means where we are trying to find out something latent variable or something which is otherwise not measurable, which we can measure only through asking people certain questions. So all this personality test, all our attitude test, all these things falls under this Likert type of questionnaire, and there we will be using Cronbach's coefficient alpha. And the beauty of this alpha, coefficient alpha, is that so it compares each item with the total score of that individual or observation, and it also compare one item with another one. So it's kind of one paired comparison we are getting. That means I am trying to find out whether my first question is consistent with my second question, whether my first question is having consistency or in line with my third question. So suppose I am having 10 questions in my questionnaire. So first I shall be finding whether my question 1 is consistent with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then whether my question 1 is consistent with the idea of the construct. That is a personality or whatever we are going to measure, stress. So for each questions, for each item, we are comparing it with the other items, and we are also comparing it with the ultimate construct that I am trying to measure. So that's why this is undoubtedly the best way to find whether a questionnaire is having internal consistency or not. So understood the concept? Need one feedback, otherwise I cannot understand whether you people are there or not. Okay. So this again is a formula for this. So here this K refers to the number of scale items. This sigma yi is the variance associated with item 1 or item I must say. And then sigma x refers to the variance associated with the observed total scores. So this, I think, when sir will be taking the practical aspect of this on Monday, then you people will understand in a better way. So again, one more formula for this. This is kind of representing the whole formula in terms of covariance and variance. So again, here K is the number of items in a scale in instrument. Then C bar is the average of all covariances between items, and B bar is the average variance of each item. So see here, it said that the average covariance between pair of items and the variance of the total score. So I'm again, what I'm trying to find out whether my questions are interrelated with each other or not, and whether my questions are having any relation with the ultimate construct or not. So this is the range given for coefficient of alpha. So again, the range is 0 to 1, and alpha tending to 1 is the highly reliable score. Okay, should I move on?
I joined late, so just wanted to get my clarity. This Crunchbase,
Yeah, sure, sir. Tell me.
Crunchbase is used for the purpose of, just give me the context.
Yeah, so we are continuing with the internal consistency of an instrument or of a scale. So suppose I am preparing one questionnaire. Now I would like to know whether it's reliable or not. So one thing we should be keeping in mind is my questionnaire, the items should have correlation between themselves, and the items should have correlation with the ultimate construct that I am going to measure. So I was just trying to give one example. Say suppose for a salesperson, to measure the stress for a sales manager or someone, suppose I have given one stress related questions like you are whether you are able to sleep during your deadline, or when you are not able to meet your deadline in those days, kind of a question. And maybe the next question I am giving, whether you like to invest in a mutual fund. So see, these two questions are completely different from each other, and these two questions cannot measure the same construct, right? So when I am trying to understand the attitude of a person towards something, when I am trying to understand the satisfaction level of a person towards something, so I'm trying to prepare one questionnaire of my own. Now I would like to know whether these questions are having any internal consistency or not, whether I am making some sense to measure that ultimate construct of satisfaction or not. So this to measure this internal consistency, again we have several methods. So one was like split up, where we are just splitting the questionnaire into two halves, and then we are giving each of the half to one individual, and we are getting two scores. Now I am trying to find out the correlation between these two scores. If the scores are having correlation, that means if the scores are correlated, then it's having internal consistency. If it's not correlated, then there is no internal consistency. So one is that. Then we came to this Cronbach's alpha or coefficient alpha, where what we are doing is we are comparing each item with the other items, and then we are comparing each item with the ultimate construct. So I'm getting some responses from my sample. Now I shall be comparing each of my item or each of the questions, the scores given for that particular question, with the total score of the individual. Then again, I'm comparing that the item score with the total score of all the individuals, that is of my sample. So this way, I'm trying to find out whether the questions which I have put in the questionnaire, whether the questions are correlated with each other or not. If there is no, like if there is zero, the score is zero between two items, that means these two items are completely non-correlated. Then one of the items should be discarded, because that is not measuring the ultimate construct. So in Cronbach's alpha, we are trying to find out whether my items are correlated with each other or not, and then whether my item is correlated with the construct or not. So any doubts from anyone?
So when you say item level value, it's nothing but the value of the whatever the number you are connecting to validate the stress level or whatever you name it. Like same example of mutual fund and sleeping and everything. Do you sleep regularly? 0 is no, 3 is always yes. and like that. So assuming that if, let's say, both give us a 0, wouldn't that make both the questions is not context giving to the overall perspective, or like how you really evaluate that?
No. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing one score with the other in the sense, say, suppose this, okay, are you able to sleep or not? Completely agree. One score I am getting like this. Okay. Then my next item is, tell me what can be my next item? Tell me any question. Say for stress, we are trying to measure stress for one person who is into cells. So one is like whether you are able to sleep during your this deadline days or not. What can be the other questions, sir?
How many hours you
Or
are
many
able to
questions,
sleep?
just for example.
How many hours are you able to sleep?
No, Ishani. Hello, Ishani.
Come again.
Hello, Ishani. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In case of the Cronbach's
Yes,
alpha.
sir. Yes, sir.
In case of the Cronbach's alpha, basic assumption that here we are dealing with the rating scale. Okay. So it is not the yes/no type. It is the rating scale. You must be very clear about it.
Yes. Yeah.
That is, it is a rating scale. For example, the Likert type scale, that is the rating scale, or semantic differential scale. So these two interval or ratio scale. Okay, instead of the nominal and ordinal. Cronbach's alpha is applicable in that case. Okay, Shani, now you continue.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. So as I said, so this is very usual application for the Likert scale, where we are getting response in terms of variable orders or variability in terms of order or intensity. So here, suppose one is that, now the person says that yes, strongly agree. And what could be the next question? So any suggestion? We are trying to measure stress. What could be the next question? Anything that comes to your mind. Stress is a very common phenomenon.
Maybe appetite.
Yes, Prasanna sir?
No, appetite. Are you having a normal appetite? Like
Appetite, right.
Number of hours of sleep.
Yes, Dharni, come again.
Number of hours of sleep. The intensity.
Fine. Yeah. So suppose my 3 questions are number of hours of sleep. Or like maybe I can put like your number of hours of sleep increases. Right. So then sleep disturbance you experience. Maybe my second question is you experience sleep disturbance. And my third question is you experience loss of appetite. Okay, so these 3 questions I am having. Now I am getting the response in terms of strongly disagree to strongly agree, suppose. So number of hours of sleep increases. I have received some response like strongly disagree, something like this. Sleep disturbance, yes, agree, something like this. And loss of appetite, again, agree, something like this. So for one individual, I shall be getting 5 scores.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes.
So when we have a survey questionnaire that has both numerical input and the Likert scale type questions, how would
so Likert scale type thing, we have to convert it into numerical. Suppose this strongly disagree, we are putting 1 for that. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. So for strongly agree, you have to put 5, and strongly disagree, you are putting 1.
All right. So essentially, we can use it in a survey questionnaire where we have a combination of questions, not strictly necessary that all questions need to be in the Likert scale type?
No, we can have a combination of questions. Suppose here also, I would like to know.
Hello, Ishani,
Yes, sir.
Ishani, I am helping.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
The
sir.
thing is that all the data properties would be the same. So if you want to use the Likert type scale, then other scales also, if you want to correlate, okay, then other scales also will be the Likert type scale. Otherwise, you will be in trouble because the data properties, if change, then it becomes very difficult. For example, you want to correlate with the rank order scale. Another one is the rating scale. Okay, then you have to change the data properties. Then how do you change? Then the change will be based upon the mean, and based upon the mean or median, you can make the rank. And then the other variable is also rank. In this manner, you can correlate, but your data properties will be lost. Therefore, this is suggestion, best suggestion
Sir,
is to follow the data properties will be the same. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
all
So
the
I
scales
think
will be the
maybe
rating
Srishti-
scale, that is fine.
Sure, sir.
Yes, yes, sir. So just, I mean, what I understood from Srishti's questions is like, suppose, sir, maybe in the initial, when we are gathering information, maybe initially I'm trying to, or maybe my intention is to compare then whether it's the male workers who are facing more stress or whether it's the female workers who are facing more stress. So maybe initially I can get certain data points in terms of nominal data points, like variables which are nominal in
That
nature.
is true. That is particularly for the classification purpose, that is okay. That is the
Yes,
0,
sir.
1,
So
1, 2,
that's what
like
I
that,
thought.
whatever might be.
Yeah.
No, but
Srishti,
related to the
that is your
correlation of
question.
the two constructs, when you want to correlate the two constructs, okay, and these two constructs are rating scale, then it is fine. But if the two constructs are different, then you will be in trouble. For example, you can measure the stress by using the rank order scale. You can measure the stress by using the rating scale also. So it is better to maintain the same type of scale everywhere. Then your data properties will not be lost. And particularly in case of the Cronbach's alpha, the first and foremost thing, that is your data property should be the rating, or the rating means interval or ratios type of scale. Okay, is it clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So Ishani ma'am, you were right. So my question was more in terms of when we are gathering the data itself, if we have different scales of measurement, would that be
So
okay?
while gathering the data, it depends on your ultimate intention or your ultimate aim, or what hypothesis you want to prove on that. Suppose, as I said, ultimately I want to test one hypothesis where I am trying to compare whether the male participants are facing more stress or whether the female participants are facing more stress. So there I am gathering data in those nominal variables in those data points, but ultimately when I am calculating, but like those answers is not useful for calculation of this Cronbach's alpha, right? Those are some other information I am trying to gather, which will be the inference will be drawn in some other terms that will not be used for calculating this particular thing.
Okay, so when it comes to Cronbach alpha, then we will only be using those rating scale type questions to measure the internal consistency. All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so now where we were, yes. So suppose we have these three questions and I'm receiving different answers from different individuals. Now, suppose from one individual, maybe for this number of hours of sleep increases. So I have received 1 maybe. Then number of hours of or sleep disturbance, you face sleep disturbance, maybe I have received 2, where he's kind of, okay, not 2, maybe 3 or 4 maybe, where he is agreeing. Now see, if we try to compare the results of this particular questions, comparing one question with another one. So this is one thing I am doing. So we will find a correlation within this question 1 and question 2. We will find one value for correlation between question 1 and question 3. Now the value of correlation between question 1 and 2 might be higher, since this is related to one particular behavior, and question 1 and question 3, the correlation might be lower than this, since this is for 2 different behaviors. But
Are you
this
sharing any
might
screen?
be correlated, because when, yes.
Are you
yes.
sharing any screen or?
Oh, I think it has stopped in between. Okay, wait. I think in between I lost my connectivity. Yeah. So this is actually this thing formula for this. Let us discuss with this particular slide. This one. So another one. So that comparison, that correlation might fall between this range or might fall between this range. Say both of my sleep related questions might fall, the correlation between those 2 questions might fall in this range, and the correlation between that appetite and sleep might fall in this range, because anyway, when we are not sleeping, we lose our appetite also. Now that fourth question may be something very unrelated with that, like I said, investment, something on this, which may fall here. Okay. So the first 3 questions are having some correlation, where the 4th question is not having any correlation with the other questions at all. Then I will come to know that this 4th question is not intended to measure the construct stress. Understood?
Yes.
Yes. So what then I will do? I will discard that question. Now again, there will be another value where we will be comparing each question with the total score of all the samples. So that will let me understand whether this particular question is at all measuring stress or not. So in Cronbach's alpha, we are doing these 2 things. So by the value, whatever value we are getting in Cronbach's alpha, we are getting the value involving these 2 processes. And the good news is we can calculate Cronbach's alpha through SPSS and through, I think in factor analysis also, you will get that score. So you don't have to compute this on your own. There are softwares, but the main point is interpretation. Concept is clear or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, this is another way to measure internal consistency. And like we said in Cronbach's alpha, it has to be a scale like a Likert scale. And here, this KR20 is used for a dichotomous answers or items which are dichotomous in nature. That means which are having yes, no type of answers. Okay, so here again, the range is 0 to 1, and the scores which tends to 1 is having more internal consistency than the scores which are having which are tending to 0. So this is developed by these two scientists in 1937. So they had a series of experiments, series of formula they came up with, and finally this particular formula is used for measuring internal consistency when the answers or the items are in dichotomous in nature. So again, here K is the total number of questions. J, suppose J is a particular item, question J. Now, proportion of individuals who answered the question J correctly. Q is the proportion of individuals who answered question J incorrectly. And this sigma is the variance of scores for all individuals who took the test. So now it can be elaborated with this particular example. So see, here number of items are 7. Question 1 to question 7. Okay. Now number of respondents 10. Now what is PJ? So this is the proportion of individuals who answered question J correctly. Now suppose this is my question J, question 1. Now how many individuals gave the answer correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So P is what? Proportion of individuals who answered question correctly. So this is 7 upon 10, right? Total individuals, total number of individuals is 10, and out of this 10, 7 answered correctly. So 0.7. Now Q is what? Q is proportion of individuals who answered question J incorrectly. So question 1 incorrectly in this case. So there are 3. Or if you just subtract this P from 1, then also you will get this value. Okay, 0.3. Now this is PQ. Multiplying this 2. And variance we will get from this total correct this score. So we will be getting, and this summation of PQ. Once you get the PQ, you will have the summation of PQ also. So you are getting all the necessary inputs for this formula, right? Once you put this in this formula, you will get the result, some result, which will show you whether all these 7 questions are having internal consistency or not. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
This is for KR20, right? Okay, KR20, yes or no answer only. Okay.
Yes and yes. So this is 0 or 1.
Okay, so when you say correct means if yes is 1.
1.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Correct, we are taking as 1. Wrong, incorrect, we are taking zeros, we are taking as incorrect. Then there is one more type or one more method, not type, one more method to test this internal consistency or reliability, that is a scorer reliability. So here what is done is, suppose one particular test or one particular observation is made by more than one individual. So ideal situations can be interview panel board where one candidate is rated by more than one individuals. So here the observation is rated by more than one individuals, and if there is a correlation from whatever scores we are getting from each of the interviewers, if there is a correlation, then we will say that this is having internal consistency. So whatever interviewers, observers, or say more than one examiners, so whatever rating they are giving, if that is completely different, then there is a doubt that whether they have understood the evaluation criteria or not. So the doubt that whether my test or whether my questionnaire or whether my instrument is actually having any reliability or not. But if there is a correlation, then we can say that yes, this is having internal reliability or internal consistency. Okay, so this is factors affecting reliability. So there are extrinsic factors which are outside the test itself, factors which lie outside the test itself, usually the environmental conditions or like momentary fluctuations. Now when the individual is giving response, so when if he is kind of, there is he's not able to concentrate properly, or there is a time crunch or something, so somehow we will just respond, right? Sometimes we also do that. Okay, some feedback form will just tick whatever, like we see something, okay, chalo, in between something we tick. So all these are extrinsic factors which may hamper the reliability of my instrument. And there are intrinsic factors, the characteristics of items, range of total scores, length of the test. Now again, this length of the test is very important aspect. For all these reliability coefficients, if the length of the test is longer, they give better results. So all these are intrinsic factors which may affect my reliability coefficient or reliability score. Any questions?
How do you fix the length of the questionnaire?
Okay. Okay. For this you need a little more understanding of validity and all the other things. We will take this question maybe after 1 or 2 more classes. It's a very important question, Dharani.
Okay.
I'm noting it and we will come back to this. Anything else?
If I may answer that question, ma'am.
Yes, Srishti?
No, this is Anindita.
Yeah.
So
please
my
go
point
ahead.
here is, for the length of the test, we cannot determine it much earlier on, but what we will try to do here is to try and determine how reliable this items that we have are, and then we'll subject it to a validity test, obviously. So in terms of the validity, we'll get an understanding of whether our test is covering how much ever of the construct that we want to, and whether it is going to measure the construct accurately. If we get that measure accurately with the number of items that we have, then well and good. But if not, we will have to work with the length of the test. I don't think we can determine that there should be 20 items or 30 items per test. we need to work together with both reliability and validity to determine what would be the best length of the test.
So would that mean we'll be doing like a pre-pilot test or something of the questions to understand which of the questions are more reliable, which combinations of questions are more reliable, along with the length of the test, I mean the combinations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that is the
usually,
entire point of a pilot test. That is why it's
yes,
called a
that's
pilot
what.
test.
So pilot
Okay.
survey or pilot test is for this thing only.
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
So based on the pilot test, we'll get an understanding of how much your items are reliable and valid. And we'll also get an understanding of how we'll be establishing these values. And once we have such an idea, then we can go ahead with refining our tools further. We can add more items to it and then again do a pilot test of the new items that we've developed. And if we need to revamp certain items, we will do that then. If we need to redo certain items, we will do that then. Or we will also test the new items that we've developed at the same time. So this is typically how you can expect psychometric development to go.
Sure.
Okay,
So
okay,
my
thanks.
follow-up question here is, so once we do the pilot test and then we identify that we need to change certain questions or reframe things like that, then what is the process again after that? I'm reshuffling and doing everything. I'm administering. Would that also fall as part of the pilot study, or how does it work?
Actually,
Right now you will have a completely revamped test. So therefore you will have to go ahead with the pilot test all over again, because now you've changed your items, your values are going to change. So it's another pilot test that you will have to go through. Ishani ma'am, do you have anything?
yeah, same thing. So every time
Sure.
you are kind of want to finalize your questionnaire, again, you have to go for a pilot test. That's why I said a questionnaire is not an instrument. So once your questionnaire is properly validated, then only it becomes one. So whatever standardized instruments we get that is there already there established. So they have underwent many such studies, many such surveys, many such alterations. Then only a standard form we find.
So essentially, then we are testing the items in the pilot survey, and then based on the reliability and validity scores, we finalize and then administer it.
True.
Okay.
So wouldn't that repetition of the pilot would lead for the participants to, again, you might not get every time a unique participant, right? So I don't know what is the terminology, right? So you do the test again and again, automatically your brain will tune for that, what is going around and everything. So
no.
would it?
So what you are saying, whether we are doing it on the same set of people or not?
Yeah, my question here is, in a practical reality, when you do that initial test again and again after changing the questions or whatever things for the reliability and validity, you may not end up in every time a unique participant, right?
No, participants here should fall into my sample parameters. We cannot take anyone randomly, right? My ultimate, say I was trying to measure the stress level of some person or of the people who were working as a sales representative. So whosoever I'm picking up, that person should be a sales representative.
No, that is okay. My point here is, let's say sales respondent A is been selected for the first time pilot test. There is a high possibility when you are retesting that A will again come into the test, right?
Might.
Yeah, so he might come into that. So what I'm saying here is, other than that, the responses that you are getting for the new questions, the old questions responses, maybe like, what is it? I don't know what is the terminology. I forget the terminology. When you do the test again and again, automatically your brain tune to that.
That's recency effect.
Yeah.
Familiarity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Effect of familiarity can play a role. But we'll try our best initially to try and get unique subjects. That's the entire point of our testing, because we need to be able to establish the reliability and validity across a single population. Therefore, we will try our best to ensure that repetition is not the case. But if we are having certain repetition happening within our sample, of course, if we are going to do completely online, we need to ensure that there are certain measures to control this particular repetition from happening in the first place. But if we are having such repetition, then we need to analyze that data separately and see if there's anything changing when we add the data to the entire sample set that we have. If you are seeing a change, then that's probably subject to our familiarity. If not, then it's probably good to go. We can control for it statistically, even if a repetition does occur.
Yeah, so while computing, we can play with that particular data point.
I think this limitation will come when we are testing that within like an organization, say the employees or something.
Yeah, true.
Where
Because
we are
there you
limited.
cannot get many people as your sample. Suppose
so
you are
in which
doing
case,
something.
our ideology is going to be that we will limit our initial pilot sample to a very small amount that is just barely requiring for your values to be significant. And we will see how far we can extrapolate that through our pilot testing. And that is also the reason why we talk about all of these various methods of reliability, because we have internal consistency and things like that that will help us understand how much we need to change. Cronbach's alpha is a beautiful tool that will help us understand which are the items that need to be changed in particular, so that we don't have to redo the entire test, do so many changeovers and so on. So therefore, with one test, we'll get an idea of how much we need to revamp, and therefore we'll get a clear idea of where we need to work on as well, so that there will not be too many repetitions of the same process.
So anything else? So that I have put some around 5 questions as a quiz. So please take that quiz. If you can take it, I mean, I can adjourn the class and you can take it after that. But I would request to take it today itself, since all the things are very fresh in your mind.
Actually, what happens, please you follow the Cronbach's alpha formula. That is, the numerator is the between group item variance. When the between group item variance will be very low, that means when the items are intercorrelation very high, intercorrelation matrix of the items are very high, then automatically the reliability will be high. Okay. But if the between group item variance is high, then what happens? The reliability will be low automatically. This is the formula indicates very clearly. Okay. And when you find that is the 2 items are there, maybe you will find the very high reliability. That may be 0.8 or maybe more. But this is not justified. Why not? Because only the 2 items cannot measure the one psychological construct. For example, to what extent you are satisfied with your supervisor? Highly satisfied or least satisfied, like that. Again, the question is like that. To what extent you are satisfied with your supervisor's expertise? So if you are satisfied with the supervisor, very much expected that is you will be satisfied with supervisor's expertise. So again, the correlation will be very high. But if you add some items, that is whether when you are in trouble and when you ask the supervisor, are you getting supports all time? Then you will find no, sometimes. So you will find the item discrepancy is there. Okay, but again, that will be the within the group. Therefore, we have to consider the more number of items, particularly for measuring one psychological construct. For example, when you are studying the Cronbach's alpha of state anxiety questionnaire, you will find that 20 items are there. And these 20 items, they are highly correlated with each other. Naturally, the reliability is very high. Okay. So state and trait anxiety questionnaire, if you go there, then automatically you will find. Is it clear to all of you? Hello. Is it clear, Prasanna?
Yes.
Srishti?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Cronbach alpha is very powerful tool. Very powerful tool. And in most of the psychological studies, you will find there is a people are not using the validity. They are using only this Cronbach alpha, that is the internal validity. And what Ishani has told you, that is the inter-data reliability. Okay, but inter-data reliability and Cronbach alpha is different.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay. Okay, now you continue.
Yes, sir. So if there is any more question, please ask. Otherwise, we will close the class.
Whatever we covered until now, can you give us a material or something? No, not material, a book or something like that, so we can revisit these contents.
Yeah,
and then come
Anindita,
back.
you are there, so you can
It's
just.
posted in the Google Classroom already, sir. It's
Is
been
it a
posted.
presentation you're talking about, or the book itself you're talking
No,
about?
no, the book itself. I think the book itself has been shared. If not, I will just take a look and share it again as well. I'll make me post it as the top of the feed. That will be useful for you.
I wasn't able to find it. There is no link or any content material attached. Yeah.
No,
Okay, I will
all
take a
these
look at it.
slides, these have been uploaded in the Google Classroom, which we are using.
There are 3 books that I will send across to you through Google Classroom as well. All the 3 books are what we use for psychometric understanding and psychometric assessments. So you can refer to any of these 3 books. And personally, we've been using both Anastasi as well as Paul Klein's book on psychometry. So I will share that with you all.
Sure.
Okay, then. Thank you all.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good night. I'm ending this.
Thank you.